Hey everyone. A few months ago, I made a video about some weird and creepy YouTube channels that I've found over the years, and the reception to that video was pretty positive. You all seemed to really like that video, and I'm super grateful it did so well. Now, in that video, I said a few times that if it performed well, I would make this a series, and seeing as it did so well, I think it's only fitting I keep my promise and turn this into a series. I'm going to be taking a look at 4 channels here tonight, and like last time, these are all unrelated channels, ranging from alternate reality games, to analog horror, to weird art projects, and to unexplained mysteries. Now before we begin, I have 2 things I need to say. First, please do not harass any of the channels I talk about in this video. I'm mostly saying this because of one specific channel I'll talk about later, but this still goes for every other channel I talk about. And second, if you have any YouTube channels you'd like me to talk about in the series, please let me know in the comments. I read every comment, and I'm always looking for new and interesting spooky channels to talk about. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps me out. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to set a like goal for the next part, so if this video gets 100 likes, I'll make a part 3. But without further ado, let's get into the first channel. First up, we have a channel that nobody is able to explain. Arcus Grid is a mysterious channel, which was created on May 27th, 2014, uploading its first video, Arcus Grid 01, only 4 days later. Uploads would continue frequently until June 5th of the same year, with Arcus Grid 96 being the final upload to the channel. Now as for the uploads themselves, I think it's best if I just show you one. This is what every single upload is like, as they're all nearly identical. They're all exactly 6 seconds long, all contain a 6x6 grid, and all have exactly 6 colored squares, which light up one at a time, with Morse code in the background. The Morse code translates to 6 different coordinates, which are all 3-letter combinations of each of the following: the letters A through F, the numbers 1 through 6, and Roy G. Biv. But what do these videos mean? I have 2 theories. The first being that this is nothing more than a test channel similar to WebDriver Torso, which does explain why nobody can solve it, but that doesn't explain why the uploads stopped. If you don't already know, WebDriver Torso was a test channel created by YouTube themselves, which uploaded almost every day for about 4 years, before eventually slowing down. However, Arcus Grid uploaded 96 videos in the span of a little under a week, then vanished. This makes me think it might be an ARG, or at the very least some kind of puzzle, but that brings us back to the question of what these videos mean. It's been almost 11 years since Arcus Grid was created, and in that time, nobody's been able to solve it. That's absolutely partially because of how obscure this channel is, as most of the videos have less than 20 views, while others have only a few hundred, or in the case of 4 videos, over 1,000. But why do these 4 videos have more views than the rest? Well, I think it's time I told you how I found Arcus Grid. In 2014, a YouTube channel named Arcus Grid uploaded a series of 96 encoded videos, then went silent. Despite a couple of different attempts at decoding it on Reddit, the meaning remains a mystery. This post was made to the subreddit r/internet mysteries on December 3rd of last year, and it immediately caught my interest. Internet Mysteries is a subreddit I found while creating the last episode of this series, and ever since, I've been using it as a source for finding strange and obscure YouTube channels. Unfortunately, most of the posts on that subreddit are related to things I have no intention of covering, But that's what made this post all the more intriguing. For once, an actual mystery was posted, so I decided to look into the post. The post itself gives a rundown of the channel, as well as detailing the previous attempts at solving it, which date as far back as 2016. However, all of the attempts were on Reddit, and on relatively unpopular subreddits. Nobody on YouTube, at least as far as I'm aware, has covered this yet, and I think that's why Arcus Grid remains unsolved. If there were just a few more eyes on this case, we could probably get to the bottom of this. And so, I'm taking it upon myself to help solve this mystery. Sure, it's probably just a failed ARG that never took off, but a channel this mysterious deserves some kind of closure. Who knows, maybe this leads to something much deeper. I know my channel is small, but I still hope I can somehow help solve this, even if it ends up being something mundane. Whatever Arcus Grid is, I'm sure someone out there knows how to solve it. It's just a matter of finding them. I'm going to get this out of the way now. This is just an art project. Like Pilot Redson or Boisvert in the last video, there's nothing really mysterious or weird here, but this is by far one of my favorite horror projects on YouTube. I Can't Sleep, or No Sleep 666, is a very difficult channel to talk about because of how dark the subject matter is. This is very much a project influenced by late 2000s emo art, and it's for that reason that I'm going to have to be a little careful with what I say and what I show here. However, the emo influence is also exactly why I like this project. It's a very unique art style for a modern horror project, and it's done with a lot of care and authenticity, even if its influence is pretty obvious. Every video is uploaded in low resolution to better emulate the flash animations it clearly takes inspiration from. And as for the videos themselves, while at first glance, they appear to be nothing more than edgy horror animations made for shock value, it doesn't take long to see that there's an overarching story here. However, before I get into that, I need to give another content warning. I Can't Sleep deals with some heavy subject matter, and while I will be partially censoring it for both your sake and so this video doesn't get age restricted, I will still be covering some heavy subject matter here. If you're sensitive to topics of essay, depression, anxiety, and self-harm, I suggest skipping to the next section. I'll be talking about some less dark channels after this, so again, please do not be afraid to skip forward if you need to. Now, as usual, I won't be covering every video. I don't want this section to be too long, and I'm also not sure how much I can show here anyway. Besides, not every video is important to the overarching story, and some are just simple horror animations. Case in point, the creepypasta animations. I'll be skipping over these since they aren't really what we're here for, but these are still very well made. I'll also be skipping over the videos in the On Your Phone playlist, since they don't really add anything to the larger story of the channel, but they do help to further show the mentality of the artist behind these videos. Now, as I alluded to a moment ago, I Can't Sleep is divided into a few playlists, though I'll only be covering 3 of them. Those playlists being Childhood, Insanity, and Nightmare. These are what I consider to be the main story of I Can't Sleep, though even in these playlists, there's a few videos that aren't important. Starting with Childhood, these videos show the main character's childhood and explore some of her early trauma that shapes the rest of this channel. The first video I'll be talking about is The Monster Under My Bed, which shows the common fear a lot of children have about a monster being under the bed. Next is Underwater, which is the first video to show us this hooded figure, who appears throughout this series as somewhat of an antagonistic figure. The main character seems to be a bit scared of this hooded figure, for reasons we'll see soon. You Can't Escape and Childhood both show how no matter what, the main character can't escape these monsters chasing her, leading me to believe they're a representation of her mental health struggles. Shadows in My Room and Don't Blink both show some more childhood fears, And the final video in the playlist, Labyrinth, is a bit abstract, but I believe it's a metaphor for depression. The labyrinth is easy to escape for those looking at it from the outside, but for those on the inside, it's nearly impossible. Before we move on to insanity, I want to talk about one more video. Surprise is a video in the Nightmare playlist, but given its very clear subject matter, that being puberty and the things that come with it, I think it fits far better here. The Insanity playlist has more of a focus on the protagonist being in a mental health asylum, as we can see her strapped to some sort of table, and again, and I woke up in a strange place. In Angel, we can see her being medicated, and in Exploring and Run, we can see the outside of the asylum, as well as more imagery of someone being medicated in Run. Sleep paralysis shows the main character's fear of the doctors in the asylum, and Sky either implies that she got out of the asylum, or she's still in it. Nightmare, the final playlist I want to talk about, shows us the trauma and mental health struggles of the main character, which are likely why she was in an asylum in the first place. A lot of these videos feature the hooded figure, which I think confirms it is indeed a representation of the main character's anxieties. They're coming, he's here, and Walk With Me shows us a hellish world the main character often travels to, which I think represents her mental health spiraling downwards. Bathroom and shower both imply that the main character experienced SA in the past, with inside, punishment, and sins of the flesh being a bit more explicit. The eyeball belly button and ominous red hole in, hole, seem to imply pregnancy, and I Can't Sleep shows us how the main character relives her trauma in her nightmares. Finally, Punishment 2, Freedom, and Leave Me Alone show us how the main character has thought about taking her own life, though judging by the title being Freedom with a question mark, it seems that she doesn't actually want to follow through with it. And with that, that's all of the videos I wanted to talk about on this channel. There are a lot more I didn't cover, but if I covered them all, we'd be here all day. It's obvious to me that this is a deeply personal project, being made by someone who has gone through some traumatic experiences in their past, and I just hope they're doing alright. Judging by the fact that they uploaded fairly recently, I'd say they're not doing terribly, but that's just my hope. At the very least, the amount of trauma they've had to channel into these videos has made them some of the best and most creative horror animations I've ever seen on YouTube, and I highly suggest checking them out, provided you can handle their heavy subject matter. On November 23rd of last year, this post was made to the subreddit r/deep into YouTube, and it instantly caught my eye. Deep into YouTube is another subreddit I use for finding topics for this series, though since it focuses more on obscure videos rather than channels, it's not always something I can rely on. However, this post looked promising. It's not every day you find an obscure channel with 8 years of bizarre, somewhat creepy content, and with a thumbnail like this, I knew I had to look into it. So I clicked on the video, and this is what I was met with.
Mystery at the birthday party. Jean invite you and your children to a birthday party. All of the children ages was between kindergarten to babies. Some of the children parents help Sean with party. Did a party in the backyard to many children kept up with inside. A mystery to this birthday party for nobody told you who it for.
Needless to say, I was still confused. I'll be honest, I immediately assumed the worst, assuming that this was either a poor attempt at an ARG, or something more sinister. But I was wrong. I've done a bit more digging, and I've come to the conclusion that this is nothing more than a personal channel run by what's likely an older man. So, case closed. Right? time to find a replacement and talk about something else. Well, yeah, you'd be right. There really isn't anything more to this channel, and I honestly debated whether or not to include it in this video. But with a face like this, how could I not? Before we get into this proper, I'd like to remind you all to please not harass this channel, or any of the others I talk about in this video. Kent Price is nothing more than an old man uploading videos for fun, and despite how creepy the videos are, it's not intentional. I'm showing you these videos purely for entertainment, so please, do not send hate to anybody. Now with that said, let's take a look at some of the older videos, since they don't feature this weird talking head thing. The first upload on Kent Price's channel is Jungle Wake Up, a strange stop motion with a mannequin and a monkey plush. It's definitely not as creepy as the talking head videos, but I do still find this video a bit unnerving and a bit charming. It reminds me a lot of old stop motions I used to watch and make as a kid, though with a slightly creepy mannequin instead of a little Lego man. These mannequin stop motions are what Kent Price primarily uploaded until 2020, though there are some more personal videos that I'll obviously be skipping over. However, there are still two more early videos I want to talk about, as they both featured this creepy old man mask. The first of these two videos, titled Welcome to Secondhand Studios, serves as an introduction to the channel, as Kent Price seemingly also uses the name Secondhand Studios. Now as for the far more interesting of these two videos, we have Dummy Dream of Being Human, which has some live action footage of someone, presumably Kent Price, wearing the mask. From what I could understand of this video, it's a wholesome story about a dummy coming to life, so I'm not going to talk about it further. Finally, for the older videos, I want to show you Do Not Disturb the Elephants. This video is so charming, and it's actually the video that made me realize this was, for sure, just a personal channel. I mean, would an ARG post this? Didn't think so. With the early content out of the way, let's finally move on to the weird talking head videos. My Old Abandoned House MTR is the first with this strange talking head, and it's basically the same video as the one I showed you earlier. In fact, so is pretty much every single one of these videos. They're all some sort of weird, somewhat nonsensical story, presented by this creepy ass head talking in a text-to-speech voice. Now, as much as I want to talk more about these, there's really no point. They're all the same. Trust me, I tried searching through a lot of these videos, seeing if maybe there was some sort of hidden message or something more sinister beneath the surface. But aside from some creepy visuals, which again probably weren't intentional, there's nothing here. Once you've seen one of these videos, you've seen them all. But you know what? That's okay. These videos are being made for one person and one person only, Kent Price himself. Sure, other people are watching these videos, and I'm sure I'm going to be giving them a bit more exposure, but that doesn't change that these aren't really anything all that special. That also doesn't change that these are creepy as hell. I mean, seriously, what the fuck is this?
Well, you are alone in a hospital bed, your age and health problems.
Don't take my words out of context though. I think this is great. Sure, I probably like this for reasons not intended by the uploader, but that shouldn't stop them from making them. I think it's important to follow your passions, even if they are a bit weird to outsiders. But as long as it makes you happy, and as long as it isn't hurting anybody, you should do it. Now there is one more video I want to talk about. One that confuses me. Who is Art? Starts off as a typical talking head video, but then it cuts to this. I don't know what this is. I don't know who these people are, and I don't know where this footage came from. Most likely it's something completely innocent, given everything I just said, but I don't know, I can't shake the feeling that this might be something darker. Hopefully I'm right, and this is nothing more than a home video or something, but despite the probable innocent intentions of Kent Price, I can't deny that these videos are creepy, especially this one. Honestly, I'm reminded a lot of the Pentamax, a channel I talked about previously, given that it was also an innocent channel with accidentally creepy videos. Whatever the case, please do not harass this person. I'm sure they're just making these videos for fun, and I'd really hate to see them receive harassments just because some people online thought their videos were creepy. With that being said, let's move on to an actually creepy channel. One of my favorite parts of modern internet horror is how people make ARGs or analog horror series based on video games. I've only ever talked about one before, that being classic GM videos, though some other good ones I've seen are Doomed by Viping Leaf, which is somewhat of a retake on Sonic.exe, and Super Mario 64 Beta Archive. Recently, I've been made aware of another video game ARG, one that's based on a game I enjoy a lot. And that series is Dr. Bosch. Dr. Bosch is a series I fully intend on covering again in the future, as this is by far one of the best modern ARGs I've seen in a while. It actually reminds me a lot of classic GM videos, and while I've called that series an ARG in the past, I think a more accurate term for both that series and Dr. Bosch would be unfiction. If you don't know already, unfiction refers to a piece of media that presents itself as real despite being fictional, which ARGs of course fall under. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I'll still be referring to Dr. Bosch as an ARG in this video, but there's no ARG elements here, aside from it being unfiction. Now, as for the series itself, it focuses on old recordings of Fallout New Vegas, specifically of someone breaking out of bounds and exploring an area nobody was meant to see. As the series progresses, it becomes increasingly clear that this takes place in an alternate universe where the Fallout IP was never sold to Bethesda, as a lot of things are slightly off about this version of New Vegas. The most obvious is that the Lucky 38, one of New Vegas's most iconic buildings, is missing. We can see this both in the channel banner and in the video titled Intro, which is the video that shows us that the Fallout IP was never sold. Getting into the series proper, the first video is Fallout New Vegas outside the Mojave Outpost. This shows how the player clipped out of bounds, entering the area we see throughout the rest of the series. Not much else to note here, so let's move on to the next video. Mojave Raw D4C2 AA65. This video is the first time where we really get to see what's out of bounds in this strange version of New Vegas, though not much of note happens. The next video is Stuck, which shows how Dr. Bosch can't leave this out of bounds area, no matter what he tries. The next few videos after this don't really show much importance, so I'll be skipping forward to the video Somewhere. This video also doesn't show much, but I think it does a fantastic job of creating an eerie atmosphere, one that reminds me a lot of liminal spaces. However, there are two pretty important things this video shows us. The first is that the player's name is H. Bosch, a clear reference to Hieronymus Bosch, a Dutch painter best known for his depictions of hell. And the second is these symbols we can see at 455. These symbols use the cut, hobo language from New Vegas' development, and the symbols themselves translate to watch your tongue and good people here. Next video I want to talk about is Pod, which shows Bosch exploring an abandoned facility, likely remnants of Van Buren, Fallout 3's prototype, as well as eventually finding a bunch of corpses wearing his character's outfit. Not much of note happens outside of this, bringing me to the last three videos I want to talk about, which are also, as of me making this, the newest uploads on the channel. First is Nowhere, which shows us how hellish the out of bounds area has become, furthering the connection to Hieronymus Bosch, in addition to showing us some more references to Van Buren. This video's ending shows us that Bosch is not alone out here, as we can see him sneaking around and possibly being spotted by something. Nader shows us more references to Van Buren, as well as more hellish imagery, as Bosch explores the destroyed ruins of Vegas. Towards the end of the video, we hear a distorted version of Sick to Death, which is a song from Everyday Chemistry, an alternate universe Beatles project. At the end of the video, Bosch arrives in a hallway with a large biomass, which is likely the cause of whatever's going on here. Finally, Back shows us a lake of blood with something inside of it, as well as several corpses throughout the video. This video has another distorted song, this time King of the City, an unreleased David Bowie song, which eventually became Ashes to Ashes. Now, the use of alternate universe versions of songs makes me think that maybe this series doesn't take place in an alternate universe, but instead, Dr. Bosch was transported to the alternate universe's version of New Vegas when he went out of bounds. Personally, I still think this takes place in an alternate universe, but I could see the transported to an alternate reality theory being true as well. The video, and currently the series as a whole, ends with Bosch on a mountain, staring at some sort of glitched texture in the distance, as the song American Swing suddenly starts playing. American Swing only plays twice in New Vegas, once in the Sacrificial Chamber of Vault 11, and once in the Dead Money DLC when you trigger the Gala event. Both are times when the player is about to die. And that's all I want to say about Dr. Bosch, at least for now. As I said earlier, I'll probably cover this channel again sometime in the future, though I'll be waiting for more of the series to come out before I do so. It's clear that this series is about some sort of alternate universe version of New Vegas, one that likely depicts some sort of purgatory or hell, given all the references to Hieronymus Bosch, though I'm still not sure what exactly it all means. I'm looking forward to seeing where this series goes, as I feel the realm of video games is still mostly untapped in the YouTube horror sphere, and I hope that more series take a similar approach that Dr. Bosch has, instead of just recreating Herobrine and, I don't know, fucking Peggle or something. Wherever this series ends up going, I'll likely be back to cover it again, and I hope to see you there. But with that, that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this second look into some weird and creepy YouTube channels, even if it was a bit shorter than last time. I'm going to be experimenting with the length of these videos a bit, since I want to be making some shorter videos this year, especially while I'm attending college. I'll still be making some longer videos, which will mostly be horror game reviews, but in between, I'll be making some shorter videos like this one. Speaking of videos like this one, again, if you have any suggestions for weird, creepy, or mysterious YouTube channels that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know in the comments. That's all for now though. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and good night.